The following program is wholly sponsored and produced by Stu Taylor on Business, which is responsible for its content. The opinions and information provided on today's show are those of the guests and or their respective companies and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of this station. It is strongly recommended that all listeners conduct their own due diligence on all companies mentioned and or seek out the advice and counsel of a financial professional. The guests on this show may pay a fee to appear on the show and are not affiliated with the show in any manner. This is Stu Taylor on Business. Now, Stu Taylor.
Hi, good day. Good day, everyone. And, you always think back to a different situation. I was just having a phone call with a friend of mine. Of course, I've been married a number of years and said, gee, I wonder what it would be like dating today. Well, we're going to get a little bit of a lot of feedback on cyber dating with our opening guest here this morning. Her name is Veronica Tanzen, Tanzen. She is the author of LOL, Living Out Loud. The book is published by Author House. It's available in paperback and ebook. You can go to Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, or AuthorHouse.com. And nice to have you joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Stu. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
I'm sorry?
I said it's a pleasure to be with you today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you as well. And the topic of cyber dating, boy, this has become, just talking about technology, and it's amazing how fast we're progressing. Give us a little bit of background about yourself and what led you to write the book.
Well, I was twice divorced and starting a new life, and the feedback that I would receive from people when they heard my story, one of the biggest things they would always say, or one of the most common things they would say, is that my story inspired them, that there was hope for them finding another relationship or a successful relationship. So it was that motivation and that encouragement from people who knew my story that really led me down that path to putting it on paper.
Yeah, and you talk about putting it on paper. There are a lot of dating services that are out there. I mean, just tons for just about every possible demographic, and I would assume that there are some books out on cyber dating. What's distinctive and different about yours?
Well, there's definitely a lot out there, and as I started writing, I did do my due diligence seeing what was on the market, and I found that the majority of them out there were how-tos or people who were self-proclaimed experts, and there was also a smattering of people who were giving their stories more in a tongue-in-cheek and heavily on the negative aspect of cyber dating. And I know that for a lot of people at first glance, they assume that I'm just trying to jump on that bandwagon of being a cyber dating guru, but I'm not at all. So the comparison's very slim. And this story, it highlights the triumphs and struggles of self-discovery. So it's not about dating triumphs per se, but so many more triumphs of self-confidence and finding myself and falling in love with myself for the first time in my life.
In using cyber dating, what did you find? Are you with someone now? You're twice divorced. Are you with someone? And if indeed, did you find this gentleman through cyber dating?
Yes and yes. I did meet him through cyber dating, and we are very happily together now.
All right. There are many options out there, and a lot of them are difficult. It's interesting how cyber dating has transformed itself into a socially acceptable way of meeting people. First, it was, you better watch out. You'll find predators and degenerates on there, and yet it's like everything else. You have to exercise caution. But it's really evolved into a very tangible, valid way to meet people. But there have to be warnings. What kind of red flags can you put out to people who may be using this?
I was really fortunate in my search that I didn't have too many red flags pop up with people, because I think I had made my criteria so stiff, and I was really going into it with my eyes wide open. And anytime something just didn't sit right with me, I really stood back and evaluated it, where a lot of people just run, and they neglect looking at what I call the but. So if you see something out there, he's a great guy, but he's always hanging around other women. Anytime a but came up, I sat back and reflected on that. So I think for women especially, we have a great natural instinct, and they really need to focus on that rather than trying to run for the purpose of getting into a relationship. They've got to step back and evaluate the entire picture as they go through it.
Is this something that you feel obviously based upon your experience, which was successful, you can recommend it. But do you think this is for everyone, or are there certain people that this really shouldn't apply to?
I don't think it's for everyone, because there are a lot of people out there who are very dishonest in why they're doing it. It might be women who are looking to just get some free meals and go on some dates. So it really depends. I mean, I was looking to be in a relationship. Some people are going online dating because they want to have casual relationships or dating. So there is quite a plethora of options out there, but I don't think it's for everyone. I think with how busy society is now, it does help a large group of people who don't have time to be going out to clubs and don't go to social functions, or who might be just going from pillar to post all day long and don't have that luxury or a hobby that might allow them to meet someone who has the same commonalities as them.
You've got a lot of experience in the dating end of it. You've been married twice, correct?
Yes, 3 times.
So I guess this qualifies you as some kind of an expert on relationships. I've only been married once, and it's still going well. So it's difficult for me to really analyze the terrain. But I would still like your opinion. What do you think are the keys for a successful relationship, and perhaps, hopefully for you, ultimately a successful marriage?
Well, when I first got married, I did marry for life. I had no intention. I didn't believe in divorce. I had no intention in getting divorced. So imagine my surprise when I was twice divorced. So I think when it comes to the keys to successful relationships, anybody can rattle off respect, love, patience, or whatever they said in their vows. But what I refer to, I call them my 3 H's, and that's honesty, humility, and humor. And they're not the descriptors that most people would think. When I'm talking about honesty, I'm talking about being honest with yourself. Because if you can't be honest with yourself, you're not going to be, and you're not going to be able to be honest with anyone else. So that was one of the biggest keys for me, was stepping back and being honest with myself and what I was getting myself into. Humility is about getting over yourself and taking a step back and approaching challenges or conflict without arrogance or false pride. When we're in relationships, we tend to fight, to always have it be, to always win the fight and get our point across. But it takes tucking your tail between your legs and stepping back and seeing the views of your partner. And humor, I feel it's about being able to keep your heart light as often as possible. I get through the rough patches with my crazy, quirky humor because I don't feel that there's a point in me sitting in the corner and wetting on myself when times are tough. It's not going to make things any better. So I just try to bring that light into our life to get through the tough times, because I know it's only temporary. And one of the biggest keys that I find for success is fight like hell. And I don't mean fight with your partner. I mean that a successful relationship is a noble battle worth fighting. And so couples must fight for the survival of their relationship, because too much now in society is disposable, including relationships.
Interesting points, interesting observations. What kind of profiles did you come up with when you were online doing it? It just wasn't bingo, automatically you found the guy. Did you have any really interesting experiences?
There were some interesting ones, nothing too noteworthy, but it was all about finding me and looking back at my past 2 marriages and seeing what I did and doing the opposite, because what I had done before didn't work out. So I decided to be the anti-Veronica and do things opposite of how I used to. And so I really narrowed my search down, and I was very, very specific, and I was not budging on it. And I made that choice because I had decided that I'd rather die alone than settle on butts again and live in a miserable relationship. And I just had tunnel vision on exactly what I wanted. And it may seem extreme for some people, but it worked for me. It definitely worked for me.
I want to give out your website for people, by the way. It's veronicatanzen.com. Veronica, TANZEN.com. You can get a lot more information, and you all know where to buy the book. Got about a minute left. Some closing comments for you on the book and why people should buy it.
I think it really just touches at people's hearts and allows people to realize that they're not alone. And we are all going through similar struggles or similar paths. And a lot of people feel as though they're the only one going through it. So this book, I know, has touched a lot of people and made them realize they're not paving the road. They're just going down the highway with a whole bunch of us.
All right, let me give you the title of the book again. It's LOL. And the name of the book is Living Out Loud. I'm giving it slowly for people. A couple of people have said slow it down when you give the name of the book. And it's published by Author House in paperback and ebook. Veronica Tanzen has been our guest. And it's really been a pleasure having you on. And good luck. And I hope you won't need any online dating, any cyber dating in the future, that you find a significant other.
Thanks, Stu.
All right, thank you. We will come back, and I'll have some comments to make, not about dating, but about politics.